Richard Lyons is an actor, producer, and director that has worked on major studio projects such as The Last Holiday, Hairspray, and Dreamgirls. Most recently, Richard directed episodes of ABC's hit series, CBS's hit series, The Equalizer, starring Queen Latifah, and the Netflix series Family Reunion. We want to talk about the difference between those two, starring beloved icons such as Tia Mowry, Richard Roundtree, God rest his soul, and Loretta Devine. Richard, come on up. Actually, I could have made Richard's introduction a lot shorter just by saying he's from Philly.
Yes, you will.
Because that's all that matters. Wendy Calhoun is a Peabody Award-winning TV writer and producer known for Empire, Justified, Station 19, and so much more. She's developing It Takes a Woman with Devon Franklin and The Awakening of Malcolm X with his daughter. A versatile creator, Wendy also works in gaming, new media, and unscripted drama. She serves on several industry boards and was inducted into the 2025 Trailblazer Hall of Fame by the California Black Women's Collective. Wendy, please come up.
Yay!
We're going to give you the center
Oh my goodness.
seat. Wendy has been to our offices in this building to talk to us about ways that we can think about collaboration, how she can be supportive of the efforts of the NAACP. So this is the first of many things we hope to do together.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
I'm so proud to be here. I'm so proud to be in this room.
Have you. So we know who our audience is. They're primarily people who are involved in the area of editing. And neither of you is an editor. I mean, you may be, but you don't tout yourselves. You don't put that out as your moniker, but you certainly work alongside editors, right? And so this conversation, I think, is designed to talk about that collaboration. Typically, when I do these kinds of things, I just kind of wing it off the top of the head. But this is a very specific audience, a very specific conversation, and so I have been given directives about what to ask. So we're going to jump into it right now. You ready? Okay, first question for both of you is, what qualities do you look for when choosing the right editor for your team?
I don't get to choose editors. As a director, the editor is already chosen. But you want to look for somebody. I have done some independent stuff. You just want to find somebody you can have good communication with. Today's world, like back in the day, we used to sit right next to the editor, and we would cut things together. And now everything is so remote. You have to get your ideas over through text and give the mark of where you want this and where you want that. And sometimes that can kind of not get your signals. You can get your signals crossed a little bit. So you want to find somebody you can really communicate with.
Right. How about you?
Well, I do primarily television. Well, I did. I'm moving on. But
what is television anymore, right?
I brought a quote for you. You want to hear my quote?
Please.
It's my favorite quote of the week.
What is television? I mean, now we're seeing movies that are feature-length films. They may spend 2 weeks in the theater just so they can qualify for Oscar consideration, and then they go right to the streamer. Is that television? I don't know.
I know that. Social media is replacing television. And just like in television, there's the shows you tune in to watch, and there's the commercials you suffer through. And this is to all the brands out there. Stop making commercials. Be the show. So this is what's happening. We have social media, and the algorithm of social media is it values episodic content 10 times over one-off videos. That is television today. And it is that revolution has already begun. And you're going to see it very robust, I think, very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm. And so, with respect to your connection with editors, taking into consideration all you just shared with us, how do you engage with them?
Oh, I love editors. Editors, as far as I'm concerned, as someone that creates, develops, and writes stories, they do the last draft of everything I write. So they are my writing partner. It is very important that we share a lot of the same taste. It does help. So one of the first things I'll ask someone that I'm meeting to work with me as an editor is, oh, what have you been watching? It seems like the most benign question, but it's very informative. What turns them on? Are there things that they like that I like? And then also, well, how much history and research do they know? Do they know the history of editing? Because if you do, then you know that women played a gigantic role in the editor's room all throughout the beginning of film. And so I love that. And then just, am I creatively vibing with this person? I spent 7 years in unscripted television before getting into scripted television. And I spent years of my life in the Bay. I mean, I spent more time with my editors than I would my husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're with them. And I still go into the Bay. I know we went through the COVID era and when everything got separated. I actually think that hurt a lot of Hollywood writers because it used to be the writers' rooms were right next to the edit bays. And so we would have lunch together. We would commune together. We were creative together, and so it fostered that. Then when things got separated, it got very disjointed. And so now, unfortunately, you have a whole group of writers who don't know how to talk to editors. They don't know how to really get involved. And even on television shows, we as writers, we will often get the director's cut, and we are asked to give our notes on that cut, and that becomes the producer's cut. Those notes go to the editor. And you would be surprised how many writers just don't do it. Typically on staffs, because I love editing and I edit and I love that process, I'm usually the one who's like, no, I'm going to dig in on this and really give those notes to the editor of at least the intention of the story. And then it's so fun because the editor will often come up with things you never imagined. They find the gold, And also, if you've been that writer on the set, you know where a lot of the bodies are buried, I like to say, right? So if we've got another take that might be a little bit hotter, or another take that, has a better framing or anything like different rhythm, or maybe there was an ad lib, and you're able to like really point them to where to go. And so you really become, I don't know, it's like you're going on a treasure hunt together when you're in that process.
So I got to stick to my questions, but you said something that jogged another question I want to ask. You kind of, and you sped through it. In between the writing process and the editing process is what this gentleman does, right? Is the directing. And you refer to the editor as your writing partner who has the final draft. But he's made his contribution in between those moments. And so how do you collaborate, not just with the editor, but with the director and his vision, or his or her vision as well?
Well, after writing a script and getting it through all whatever notes process you're going to go through, the next step is prep. That's another draft of the script. And that you do hand in hand with the director. And there you're starting to understand the director's vision, and you're able to infuse that into the script throughout the prep process. Once you get to production, I always say the train's left the station, right? It's all done in prep. So that is another draft that really gets done in the middle. And that's why when you're able to go after you've gone through that prep process, you've seen everything that happened on set in the production, and now you're in that post process, you're able to speak for the director if he's not there because you know what his intentions were.
Sure. So I have a question I want to ask. Richard, if you have, so writers are cautioned not to fall in love with their words. Writing is rewriting, right? And you get edited all the time in your writing, right? What about directors? Do you fall in love with the choices that you make on stage? And now keep in mind, of course, if we're talking about the film world, the director is the final say. I mean, it's his vision, his or her vision.
No,
we're talking about TV.
that's not true.
But if we're talking about TV, obviously that power rests with the showrunner, right? And so, how do you have to prevent yourself from falling in love with your choices, knowing that someone's going to come behind you and make adjustments?
Not necessarily, because once it's left your hands, it's over. Once you pass it on, you can have hurt feelings if you want. You might, because it might be a shot. You're going to love, every director's going to love their vision of how they see things. And I want to have this cut here and that cut there, this, that. And you hoping they just love everything. But normally, I don't mind it because I've learned a lot over these past couple episodes that I've directed. Watching my cut and then watching how the showrunner puts it all together. And a lot of times I've been blown away, like, oh snap, wow. Yeah, I still like my other shot better, but overall as the show, what they're putting together is like, because they're thinking of so many different things. A lot of times I feel like it was better overall, even though I like a particular couple of my cuts better. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing you can do about it. It's, no sense in being married to it in a sense, because once it's gone, the divorce is over,
Well, I'll tell you one thing I really love from a director is when they give you some choices. They don't send you into the bay with a oneer. You know what I mean? And you have nothing to cut to, and you have nothing, So those directors that are like, "Hey, I got a whole candy jar for you. Pick what you like." Then we love them because we're like, okay, they actually gave us all the different toys to play with.
I've always enjoyed it when the editor actually is on stage while we're shooting. And so they're getting a sense of, and then there's a question here, how do you approach pacing, tone, and rhythm in collaboration with the editor, right? I think the editor gains a greater sense of the showrunner or the writer's intention or the director's intention by being on set as we're capturing the play.
I would say certainly by being on set, and I will say that some of my very favorite ever script supervisors. So that's the person that's next to you in the video village, if you will. That's marking everything. If they are editors or have had editing experience, they are gold. They are gold because they're able to look at it the same way I am. You're looking at a 3-camera setup, and you're sitting there cutting it in your head. Do I have this coverage? Do I have that coverage? It's a whole. You have to kind of be trained to do that. So that's also, I would just say, very, very helpful. And now I'm sorry, I lost track.
Okay, I can jump in. In Equalizer, I heard they didn't always do this, but they had a tone meeting where they go over with the director, the tone of everything. And I know the editor would get these notes as well. This is what we're looking for. But normally a show in the very beginning, the showrunner and the higher ups, they have an idea how they want that show to look and how the flow, whether it's fast paced, slow, so that's pretty much established from the beginning. The editor has to kind of get right on board right away and kind of figure out what they want and give it to them.
I think it's important for people to know something specifically about you, Richard, which is you came here as an actor. And had a career as an actor, and at some point gravitated toward being an acting coach, right? And worked on a lot of different shows behind the scenes, working with the actors and helping them interpret the words on the script and figuring out how to deliver their lines in a way that was compelling. One of those people just happened to be Queen Latifah on Living Single, right? And then she goes on now, she's on The Equalizer. You've gone on and have perfected your craft. And she goes, yo, let's bring Richard in and start directing. Why don't you talk about how that transition happened?
Well, it was a long time coming, let me tell you. I started with Queen on, the first time I coached her was the movie Set It Off. And I've been pretty much working on almost every movie with her since then. I'm going on to work on with Shia LaBeouf, and I coached Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls. So I've been kind of building myself as a director through a coach because I always know I wanted to direct. So the whole time I'm coaching, I'm studying and learning everything about directing I can. So by the time it came around where she was actually in a position where she could say, Rich, you can get that shot, I said, hey, hook a brother up. And she did. They made it happen, and
but you were ready.
But I was ready. Yeah. And it's funny because like even our father comes down to set all the time, and he came down to watch me direct, and he's like, yeah, well, Rich, he's been watching forever. He's been directing forever. He's already been doing it, So yeah, so it definitely made it easy. I definitely felt confident going into it, knowing that I've pretty much, so many movies, so many TV shows. Sure. I've learned it all just from watching, shadowing.
We wanted to talk about the Shia LaBeouf thing. That must have been a challenge.
It actually was.
It was. I bet.
It was good, but it was good.
But wait, so this is a love fest. That's cool. But one of the questions I'm supposed to ask is, how do you handle situations where creative disagreements arise in the edit bay?
Yeah.
Now the editor is trying to make a cut, and you as the showrunner or you as the director go, "No, I'm not feeling that." How do you resolve that? You just pull rank? How's that? How do you work that out?
I don't think they challenge you. Did they?
Typically they will try. They will definitely give it a shot, And it's the same thing that we do in the writer's room. Okay, we got that pitch. What's the alt? Can I please see another version? And it's a creative process.
And then, of course, particularly in television, once you pass the rough cut on to the studio and the network, we're going to get notes back, right? So we got to go back into the edit. We got to get a different take on it. And so getting the editor to have the right temperament to not get in their feelings about the cuts that they've cranked out, I think is part of the gig, right?
Very much so. I will say that what I'd forgotten earlier was you talked about editors coming to set. And there have been situations, for example, we did the Rookie Feds on the Paramount set and we had our stages right there. So the writers' rooms were right there. And the editors could come and actually be on set if they wanted to. Life was another show I did with Damian Lewis where we were right there. We literally, we even had a feed from the set into the writer's room. We could see exactly what was being shot as it was being shot. But it's rare that you get those opportunities because so much production now is done in another place. And but one of the things I love to do, and I do on every shoot, is we get to the end of the day and I'm calling my editor. Did you watch Dailies yesterday? What'd you think? And I try to get that feedback so at least you've got that communication going while you're shooting. Because there might be some things already that editor's going through dailies and pulling selects and going, you know what? I wish I had this reaction shot in the police station. I'm like, we're shooting there tomorrow. I'll get it for you. I got to pick up, And so it's a constant growth process. It's a constant, like I think of a television show when it's in conception and production up until the last minute it is delivered. It's a growing thing. And so you treat it like a baby and you take care of it every step of the way. So mama and daddy call each other. What's going on?
More and more we're seeing remote editing. And of course, now we have AI tools that editors use. I don't know if you guys have had to contend with that just yet. But, some of the story is literally being crafted inside the editing process. It didn't happen on the stage.
Right.
Have you had that experience yet?
No, not really. I haven't gotten into the AI part. Usually if it's special effects, we have a special effects person and they'll come on set, walk you through it and even tell you, okay, if you want to, this is what you want, and this is how you want to do it, this is how you do it. We need this kind of big screen and, so they pretty much will, special effects people walk you through it, but I haven't really gotten to AI. I've been actually avoiding the whole AI, ChatGPT and all that myself.
I have. So, I dabble in new media. I made a vertical drama. And yes, it's spicy. First all black vertical drama for the Candy Jar app. Yep. I'm very proud of it. But one of the first things they said to me, and I directed this piece, and the first things they asked me was, okay, what shots do you want us to mark for AI? I was like, wait, what? Like that was even before we shot. So we're in prep and these questions are coming at me. So, there were certain things that I knew, like there were effect shots, right? Or establishing shots. The kinds of things that normally you would have gone, you'd go to like pull, what's it called? Stock footage, exactly. But I could make moves within it. I could do different things. I had more to play with than just pulling a stock footage shot, right? And so that I already knew that we were going to target and be able to do that with AI. And then, of course, as you start to get deeper into the editing process on that side, what would happen was there were certain things that I would be like, I wish we could do this. And they'd be like, we can, And so, it's here.
Audience of editors here, are we talking about an evolution where their roles become more prominent than we've seen in the past?
Yeah, well, I think editors
because of the
have always
technology.
been prominent. Yeah.
But I mean, editors have been responsive to what the writers or the directors have already laid down. But because of the technology now, some of this is actually starting in the edit bay. That's ground zero.
Right. Or it could be elevated in the edit bay. You could do something totally creative that wasn't even conceived of in the beginning after you have it. Yeah, I mean, listen, everything we're saying is just, I don't know, reiterating in my mind what I think is so important, which is that the editor is definitely a huge part of the creative pie, and they should be involved from the jump. That's how I feel. I mean, and I've said this to writers as well. A lot of writers in Hollywood over the last, I don't know, since the streaming age, so that's already 15 years. There's a group of writers out here who all they've ever done is go into a writer's room and deliver scripts. They've never been on a set. They've never been in prep. They've never been in post, and they don't have any of those chops. And a lot of them are they push. They're like, well, I want to go to set. Like that's the first thing they want to do. I guess they just want to hobnob around celebrities, whatever. But they, all of them want to go to set. But I truly believe if they're going to become a better writer, what they need to go and do is be in the bay. They need to go be with that editor. That's going to teach you more about writing. My writing grew tenfold when I learned how to edit.
Directing too.
It's a great way. It's a great way to help new writers learn the craft, send them to editing, because they need to understand that there's a back end to their process.
This is what you need, and this is what you're never gonna see, and you know what I mean. And this is how long that establishing shot's gonna be on there. All kinds of just details that they don't know, and it makes you more judicious on the page because you're already thinking about how it's gonna cut together.
Can either of you think of a time when the editor's choices actually made the project better? Like you said, my God, I had never seen it that way until they laid it out in that sequence. Can you think of a project you worked on?
I can say I definitely been impressed with the editor's cut. When I get an editor's cut, I've definitely been impressed because they've seemed like they kind of really know what you want and what the show needs, and they're already putting together. Like you might think you have to start as a director going to getting the cut. I'm thinking I have to do more work than I actually have to do, but it gives me time to be specific about the details that I like to have in my edited, because they're giving me so much that I can just deal with the details here and get those specific things to make it sharp. But they give you, I mean, pretty much every the shows I worked on, they've given great edit cut.
Shows you've worked on that were enhanced because
absolutely. I've done, I did Nashville and I did Empire. So music shows, editing's incredibly important. That timing, how you're gonna get, especially when it comes to things like timing, when it's music, when it's dance, when it is a comedic reaction. And a lot of times what they'll do that I find really magical is they can reorder the sequence of a story and make the story that much better. And I hadn't thought of it in that sequence, but because they just took the same ingredients that I kind of gave them and then made a new recipe, I'm like, dang.
That reminds me, many, many years ago, most of y'all too young to remember this, but they used to sell laser discs of films. And I went to the store one day and they had a remastered laser disc of the Godfather trilogy, right? 1, 2, and 3. We all know 3 is crap, but that's not the point. So I spent a fortune for this thing, and it came with a book, and Francis Ford Coppola wrote all this stuff, and I spent a gabillion dollars for this thing. But what I didn't realize when I got home, they had resequenced everything so that the story was being told chronologically. So in Godfather 2, most of the whole first half of that film is a flashback to when Vito Corleone was just kind of coming into his own, right? Well, now that's at the very beginning of the trilogy. It was the worst. I'm like, this is terrible.
Like, this is so boring.
Right. It was terrible seeing it in that sequence. So I'm answering my own question by saying that's an example where the editor killed the whole project.
Yeah, that's so suspense. Anything that has to do with timing, an editor seems like they always make it better.
Yeah. You talked about music and how important that is in the editing process. We have Bobby, we have this gentleman here, and I'm sure there's other people in the room who are specifically interested in sound and how that impacts the quality of a production. And I'm just curious, as you work with editors, how much emphasis you guys put on music cues, on, other kinds of sound effects that help to move the story along.
Well, yeah, it depends on like what medium you're doing. Like what exactly is the sound you're using? Like, are you going to have a thumb track? You know, and that has to work with the editing.
Everybody knows that is?
Thumb track where you just hear. So they're not playing the music. There's just like a little beat.
So the extras can dance on the beat.
Right.
Right. But they'll actually add the song in post.
Exactly.
Right.
And people being loud enough that, you know, goes into how they're going to edit it. Like this person, I have this person's line, they're singing in the background. Like my episode, we had a step show. And so they had to do the claps and everything and do the cheers and everything. So we had to really make sure we had the thumb trap, everything was in sync. So even when we had different angles and everything, it would be able to edit together well. And yeah, we got advice from the editor. He's like, oh, the sound guy. Our sound guy was like, no, you want to use this. You want to use the thumb track for here. Later on, we'll cut it out and we'll just have, you know, this. So that's something pretty.
Yeah, we had a challenge in this room just 2 weeks ago. We shot the pilot for a talk show that we're producing. And we had a theme song. We had a live studio audience, right? So we had a theme song for the show, and we were playing the theme song for this live studio audience so they could feel the energy of the show. But at the same time, it occurred to us, wait, we want to add this in post. And so we've kind of created a little dilemma for ourselves and how we're going to fix that, but we'll fix it. But yeah, these are very important. How about you, Wendy? Have you had this issue with sound?
Oh, man. I love sound. I'm telling you, the difference between a good film and a great film is sound. Oh. Absolutely, right? And you know, I did a show called Prodigal Son in New York, and I love the sound group so much that a lot of times, instead of sitting in a video village, I would go and sit with sound. And I would just watch the show from a sound's point of view. And it gave me a lot of insight into what that work is. And it's incredibly important. And it also helps me because as for showrunners, typically, you know, we're there on the set and then we're there in post, but then we go to laybacks. We have to direct ADR. I've direct a lot of ADR. We have to, you know, be there for the final mix. We need to know that sound, like and also where we can enhance something and use sound actually. And I learned a lot of this when I was working in virtual reality. Sound directs your attention, right? If you hear a sound over here, you'll be looking here. And we can have all kinds of glittery things happening here, but that sound will direct you to where to go. That's how powerful sound is. So yes. Working with the sound editor, I think it's just critical. It's the difference between something being good and great.
So we have some questions here that are closing advice. But rather than read these questions at this time, and I don't know if this is a part of the format of today, but I thought maybe we should ask if there's any questions in the audience that you might want to have answered. Yes, sir.
So, as an art director, I was both outgoing and my art
Let's see, our situation was.
To hear the question first of all.
Why should I?
Hey, I got a mic right here. Hold on. Hold on.
I can repeat it.
So hey, I'm Kai, by the way. As an art director and an editor, oftentimes I find myself using my skills in post-production, but in pre-production. As an art director, I do all the storyboards. How important do you think it is having somebody with the technical know-how of being an editor in pre-production, like knowing how the cut is going to go as they're doing the storyboarding?
I'll just talk about the show I worked on. We'd have our pre-production meetings all week, and we go through different things, whether we talk about wardrobe this day or whatever that day. But all this department heads would come on, like we'd have a live feed for everybody to get on. So our editors are in LA while we were shooting in New York. So at least one of the editors, it'd be usually like 2 editors to each episode. So at least one of them would get on the production meeting to hear all the notes and hear everything that's going on. That way you're updated on everything everybody's talking about. Yeah.
Right,
So
sure.
it's definitely, I think it definitely helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think Martin has a microphone there for you.
Okay, this might be a silly question.
Silly question.
Okay. How do you guys feel about when there's a
I
trailer?
didn't mean that there's no such thing as a silly. I just don't.
You're gonna get a silly question. How do you guys feel about when there's like a trailer for a movie or a TV show and there's a scene in that trailer that didn't make it into the movie? Because like as an audience member, that really pisses me off. And also, is it easier for you guys to like spot errors in like the continuity when you're watching TV? Like,
Well, for your first question, I'm curious. Do you feel like it's false advertising? Is that what bothers you?
yeah,
about it?
because usually it's like one of the scenes that you were looking forward to seeing, and it's not in the movie.
So, answer that question, and then the follow-up question was what again?
When you're watching TV or movies,
Oh, continuity.
do you
Continuity.
guys notice mistakes easier?
Go ahead.
I notice them all the time. I cannot unsee it, and I'm terrible. And also, I spent so many years in unscripted that I'm like, there is no way that shot is not set up. That there is no way that you know what I mean? Like I'm a pain in the butt, and people usually go like, you need to leave the room. And a lot of times when it comes to marketing, you know, we don't have a say in what's going to show up in that marketing piece. Now, I will say, as we get into this new media world, in new media, you as a creator, director, you work very closely with marketing. They let you know what the marketing shots are, actually, and they are like earmarked. You actually put your schedule together based on what's going to be marketed because you want to make sure you have plenty of time to get that. So it is a big deal on that side. But honestly, most filmmakers, I say, don't have any say over what the final trailers and TV spots are going to
Right.
be.
Yeah, it depends on your contract, you know, what you have in your contract. If you have a say. I can remember, I think it was Girls Trip. There was a scene that didn't make it to the movie that they had on the trailer. And I was like, where is it? I remember going to the premiere looking for it, like, oh, okay.
Now, see, I've had the opposite experience where I've seen a trailer and then I go see the film, and the only thing good about the film was what was in the trailer.
They put all the good stuff in the trailer.
The whole rest of the film was garbage.
Right.
So, any more questions?
I have
got
a
a few.
microphone here.
Okay, go ahead. I can't see you, but go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I am Kelvin Garvan. I'm an actor, a filmmaker. Is there any relationship or is there a hierarchy with the director and the editor if you're working with actors and you see that the actor has certain tics or the actor has certain approaches to their character that might not be consistent with even who their character is in the story? So they come in on Monday and they might not be punching the line, so it's not as generous to the people in the ensemble that they're working with. Can you as editor say, you know, today Roger really, or this is what Roger does and it makes me have a difficult time meeting my responsibility because when he's in a scene, this is what he does or this is what she does?
Yeah, I as a coach, I would get notes like that from say sound or even editing. Sometimes they say, hey, make sure when you're actor, you know, because sometimes, you know, if you have it close up, you might just get one line, you just got to get it out. So you may do it repetitiously. So you'll say the line a couple times just to make sure you got it right, you're acting it just right. Sometimes one of my actors would do it again so fast that there was no really gap in between. So they would tell that, hey, make sure you remind your actor, just give us a beat. It'll help us in the editing room. We can edit it much better if they give a beat. And just about like your entries and exits and stuff like that, things that walking into the set, stuff like that, they'll tell you stuff like that. You have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I typically will do a first season of anything, right? I like to be at the very beginning, and I can tell you that it's not just the editors who's looking at those dailies. It's also all of the studio executives and the network executives and anybody else you may be getting that call from. that's saying, hey, we need to give this adjustment note to the actor. I had a similar situation just recently on that microdrama, because when you're doing a vertical frame and a lot of it is right here, it's like, I call them FaceTimes. It's right, it's a medium shot. But I had an actor who he was always floating. I mean, he was gonna make everything us all seasick with this show, And so I had to have that discussion with him, and that when I got that feedback from people who were watching those dailies really closely, helping me out and saying, hey, you gotta get him to anchor down for those shots.
I would add to this whole discussion to editors. It is a collaborative, effort, but your part is important, that you should use your voice. Like, don't be afraid to use your voice. You don't want to overbear in your voice, but you want to use your voice when you need it. Hey, can you do this? Instead of just being quiet, I don't want to say nothing, I'll leave it up to them. Say, hey, do you know, blah, blah, blah. You guys okay with that? Blah, blah, blah. Because this is what we're getting in the editing bay. Use your voice. Your voice is important.
I also feel like editors make incredible directors. I've seen so many editors I've worked with who've gone on to have great directing careers. And they know. They see it all, you know what I mean? And they know how to make those choices. Honestly, when you talk about communication, it's really key. But I'll tell you this: some of the editors I've worked with they've just become friends for life. We're two sides of the same coins, writers and editors.
There's a certain disposition that goes along with editing. They're pretty cool people. No, seriously, pretty cool people. They just kind of even keel mostly. The folks out on set can be a little deranged, but the folks in the edit bay are pretty cool. We got time for one last question. This young lady raised her hand very quickly when I said that.
I got the mic.
Oh, somebody else got.
Oh, this guy had the microphone already.
Here. No, respect.
You gonna sacrifice your question? Oh, brother, chivalry is not dead.
That's love. See, now that's the editor's spirit right there.
That's the editor's spirit.
I'm not even an editor.
You better make it good. He gonna be sitting there like, I could have asked my question.
So I'm an entertainment marketer turned actress and filmmaker, yeah? And I am curious about, because you were talking about television and your perspective on television and how you're going out of being a TV, like going into the feature film side. And I have a pitch. I kind of work backwards because I'm a marketer. So my pitch got picked up by the Hollywood Black Film Festival. So I'm presenting, thank you, next month for a biopic. But when I did the pitch, I put that I'm curious seeing it as a limited series or a feature. So I'm curious about what your perspective is on limited series right now and feature films and that whole, yeah.
Your question was better, wasn't it?
I'm
only playing. I'm only playing.
Not right. That's not right. Oh, you want to talk business? I love to talk business. Okay, there are very, very, very few places in Hollywood you're going to be able to set up a limited series. Okay, they are a high cost investment, right? You're only going to make a certain number of episodes. And the way television works is that you want to make as many episodes as possible because you can amortize your budget for all of your standing sets and everything else. Like that television is actually a volume business. The same is going to go for that new media volume business, okay? So, I would say think of it as a feature. If you've got a beginning and a middle and an end, that's going to be a little bit better for you. And I'm only putting it in the context of what you're going to go to sell at Hollywood. And what are we talking about? 6 spaces right now? Might go to 5. So there's a whole lot of other ways to put your story out into the world. And if you say my story is a limited and that's how I see it, then I would commit to that. And I would go out and see if you could put together your independent financing and get your budget to where you can actually make it and make it. I don't want you to think about the limitations of Hollywood and put that as a limitation on your creativity. It shouldn't. You put your creativity out in the world and Hollywood will come to you. So, but I will tell you this, if you want to do the Hollywood game with a limited, what works? What works is you've got to have a gigantic piece of talent that will not commit to a longer running series that particular buyer wants to be in business with. And they're really only, Netflix is doing limited because they know that they've got an audience that wants to binge in a weekend and will invest in 6 hours and be done.
And they have a fight tonight.
Okay. Let me wrap this up. Anyways, Peacock has experimented with limited as well. But honestly, most people, they're impossible to sell. Really impossible to sell. So if you can figure out how to figure out the best 2 hours of those 6 hours, go for that. Go for the feature. That's my advice.
I love Popper.
I can talk about it all day while they go watch the fight.
But listen, also consider, and I mean this is going to sound funny, but I mean this. Consider puppet shows, consider animation, consider immersive audio, consider all the varying ways that you can tell your story. And don't be afraid that by making one of those choices that you'll cannibalize the opportunity to do the feature later on. In fact, if you do it well, you may actually enhance your opportunity to do the feature later because now you've developed some traction and audience. So just think out of the box. Do not let Hollywood define your options. You do that for yourself.
To my question,
Hi. You got it back. Okay. Hey, got it back. Thanks for your votes, guys. This is a beautiful panel right here. And I wanted to ask the time I'm from the edit bay. From the time you see all the dailies from cut to cut, when you guys finally make a decision when we don't have enough here, we need to go do pickups.
Well, the editor normally lets us know. Like we're doing Equalizer, week after week after week, but generally they'll once they edit, they'll look through it and say, you know what, we need a better transition right here, or we need this shot. This wasn't quite as clear as it was. Like I had to do a shot of this woman who got abused by her husband and she had this bruised elbow. And I thought I had a decent angle. And but the editor's like, no, we really didn't quite see it the way we wanted to. So they sent the notes. They sent like 2 or 3 shots of notes for pickups. And almost every director every week had to do some form of a pickup shot or another.
You picked it up in a different cycle.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, well, then we're moving on to the next. Well, if you're directing, if you're around, you'll do it. But we had our producer director on set. So
how far out in advance, when you're filming, how far in advance before airing?
It's way, generally it's because you got to get the product out. So generally they'll let you know within 2 weeks whether or not they need to, 2 to 3 weeks, whether they need to do a pickup shot or not.
It really, this is one of those questions. It's like a fingerprint. Every time it's going to be different, right? Because like you say, in broadcast, they don't have time. So they're going to do it fast. Usually it's insert shots. That's what I've seen more than anything. But although we had a situation like just on Empire, and it was John Singleton's episode. So roll with me here. I'm with John, and and rest in peace. And he's got to do pickup shots because we got a sponsor that came in with a shoe deal, and we had to go insert a commercial. Oh, he hated it, and I had to sit there and be like, "It's gonna be okay, John. Just shoot it." But that came a couple of months later, so he had already left Chicago, was off doing something else, had to fly back in to shoot a shoe commercial for his episode. He was not happy. But then also streamers, you're going to have a lot more time, a lot more lag time because they just don't go as fast as broadcast. So it could be anything. It could be a day, and it could be 2 months, and it could be a year.
Okay, by show of hands, whose question was better, hers or his?
Oh my God.
No, they were both great questions, and both a great way to send us home. Please give your applause and appreciation to our speakers. Okay, stay tuned for the next conversation.